My first review from TIFF. My review today is of It's Kind of a Funny Story, which is going to be hitting theaters in October. It's a comedy, dramedy, if you will, starring Zach Galifianakis. So not a raunchy comedy like The Hangover. It definitely has more emotional and dramatic beats to it. It's about a 16-year-old boy played by, I had to write this down, Keir Gilchrist, because I had never heard of him before, but an exceptional young actor, boy, 16 years old. His character is feeling suicidal, and so checks himself into a mental institution of a sort, a hospital, and is put in a ward with the adult, mostly adult mental patients that are also staying in the same place. And there's also a teenage girl played by Emma Roberts, Julia Roberts' niece. So the story does focus on this boy who is having an emotional crisis. He's depressed, he's under a lot of school-related stress, girl-related stress, you know, the typical teenage stuff you might say, but he's a very sensitive, bright boy who's taking all of these pressures very, very strongly. And so he wants to help himself and doesn't know how else to but to put himself over to this ward that is filled with all sorts of characters. Of course, your colorful array of mentally unstable people, a lot of them sort of somewhat stock characters, caricatures that you've seen in other films that sort of poke a bit of fun at the mentally ill, but it's not over the top in that sense. It stays on the right side of the line of not using these mentally challenged types to an entirely over-the-top comedic approach, which was nice. And the main one, of course, is played by Zach Galifianakis, who befriends this boy, and they form a sort of an odd friendship, odd couple kind of pairing, and Zach's character does help and guide the boy, and the boy also helps Zach to overcome some of their issues. The adults' issues are somewhat more serious, you may say, but what's nice about this story is that it sort of shows the parallels that no matter what your age and your problems, we all feel overwhelmed by things that may seem petty or not. It's kind of irrelevant. It's how we experience our lives, and finding that motivation to overcome and to enjoy the wonderful things of life. Of course, that's very poignant to see in a teenager whose life is just beginning and is supposed to be so wonderful. But I could actually relate to the boy's character. I remember in my teen years feeling some of that angst and confusion, and also as a parent it made me think about my son Max and how it would feel to have your child feel that way. So there was a lot of touching emotional elements, and also of course humor. I mean, the humor that's found in the struggles of life is very evident in this kind of story. So I think that they handled the mental issues quite nicely, sometimes veered a bit into the cliched territory, but mostly I was quite pleased with how they found a nice tonal balance in that realm, which could have gone in the cheesy direction. And there was also some stylistic touches that veered a bit towards the line for me in terms of cuteness. There's some talking towards the camera, addressing the camera, and there's some stylistic sort of multimedia type and some animation used that can seem a little bit hokey, but I also reminded myself that this story is told from a teenage boy's perspective, so in that respect it was appropriate, I think, those stylistic touches. It almost made me think of Diary of a Wimpy Kid a little bit, except it's the diary of a suicidal 16-year-old, and so from his perspective, I think that the tone was pretty much just right, and some great music, and really great performances. Zach Galifianakis definitely has dramatic chops, and yet his comedic talent was very appropriate for his character. You kind of felt his character was like how Zach Galifianakis really is in real life, a little bit crazy, a bit on the edge, but also sweet and insightful, and of course hilarious. And this boy, Keir Gilchrist, I think he has a bright future. Really nice, restrained, realistic performance, not over affected like many child actors are, and you really empathize with him, and very believable as a teenage boy, and I look forward to seeing more from him. So It's Kind of a Funny Story, coming in October. I recommend it if you like this sort of thing. We're going to be, Gab and Dad are introducing a rating system, so this is the first film I will give my rating to. It's going to be out of 5 Gabs, and I give It's Kind of a Story 4 out of 5 Gabs. Stay tuned for more reviews from TIFF.